The immigration official had to stamp documents and couldn't pronounce those names, some of which were kind of partially Hebrew but partially Yiddish and were in foreign tongues, and so they Americanized those names right there and then.
As things got more and more crowded, things got bad, and so the federal government set up Ellis Island. But people needed help when they arrived. They needed help with answering questions and things like that. The established community set up groups to help them, the most famous of which now is HIAS, which has lasted through the years.
Because there was nothing here, they started their own cultural institutions. They started the synagogues. And the synagogues were dependent upon what part of the world they were from. The different Russian ones, the ones from the Ukraine, the ones from Poland, whatever. They started their own. People that were of a different echelon with money started opera houses. They were very much into setting up cultural spaces for people.
Federations became involved and are still involved, and so are the other organizations. So there was an obligation that the Jewish community felt that when Jews were fleeing persecution and they came to this country, the organized Jewish community felt that it had an obligation to help absorb the wave of immigrants. So they did, and it was an outstanding success story.
They weren't just helping the immigrants at the point of, sort of when they arrived, but they had skills training, they had language training, they had services, employment agency that could help newcomers when they arrived.
They housed the people, they gave them allowances, they provided for their education, they supported them financially and otherwise in their first period of time and getting acclimated to the country.
I think they were also glad to be here in the New World till the day they died. Not only my grandparents, but my parents thought that America, the streets were lined with gold, that we were so blessed to be here.
They were still in poverty. They were still working very hard at tasks which may have been menial, may have not brought them in much money, but they had hopes for their children's future, which they probably hadn't ever been able to entertain when they were in Eastern Europe.
So, Jews in the United States at the beginning of the 20th century were far less secure, far less affluent, far less educated in the sense of these waves of immigrants, many from Eastern Europe, were washing on the shores of the United States, and they had a different education that was not westernized. So our situation in many respects, the situation of the Jews in the United States has never been better. It's almost like if you were to ask Jews to envision, fantasize about what might be the best possible circumstances for the Jews, they couldn't even imagine what life is like for us now in the United States. It's that good.